I'm Kevin McCurley, and today I'm going to teach you how to deal with the snake with a stuck shed and how to do it correctly and safely and not cause your animal a great deal of further stress and actually basically get this guy where all the shed comes off nicely.
What causes a stuck shed?
These animals can desiccate where they don't have access to water, or they're hiding and they don't want to come out to their water dish because they're nervous, or sometimes they've eaten a very large meal and that meal sometimes can dehydrate them as they go through the whole metabolic process. And there's various different things. Sometimes even when animals are kept ideally, they can still get a stuck shed, but it's usually a pretty simple matter of getting rid of it, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. So dry sheds are basically, so the animal's gone opaque, so basically that's when the eyes turn blue. This animal is going opaque. So this is basically the start of the shed cycle. So sometimes we notice the animal starts getting dull. So if you actually look at this Boelen's python versus some of the other Boelen's pythons, it's very dull. And then we basically see the eyes. Here, check out the eyes. I know you're not a snake guy,
but I work for you somehow.
See?
Yeah.
See the eyes?
Yeah, they're blue. Is that
yeah.
blue?
So basically, what happens is they get the animal's actually creating a new layer of skin underneath. So there's a lot of fluid. Just to break it down very simply, there's a lot of fluid under here. So this is a very precarious time in this animal's life. So I actually took this animal and maybe didn't manage its husbandry right at this point, and let's say I dried it out. Suddenly I reduced the humidity. I could easily desiccate the animal, and basically what happens is when normally the animal would shed, it doesn't have enough moisture to allow it to roll the skin off, and it's actually trapped within the skin. And you need to be able to recognize when that has happened. So if you watch the animal's eyes go opaque, you know within days the animal's eyes will go clear, and within a few days after that the animal will shed. That's all typical, and this is all dependent on ambient temperatures, situations, how many days or whatever. But if the animal goes opaque and then goes clear and days go by and then maybe it turns into a week, you'll start noticing the animal looks very, very dry. Another way to tell if an animal is hydrated, do a little quick pinch and the skin returns. See how it just returns?
Mm-hmm.
So if this animal is dehydrated or had a stuck shed on it, when I pinch it, it's going to stay. Okay, this is so this Boelen's python is not in a shed cycle. So this would look very typical to that Boelen's. Look at the eyes. See the eyes? See how clear that is?
Yes.
See how there's a lot of luster and the animal's very shiny. And then if I were to go look at this guy that's shedding, see, you see how it's duller?
Yes.
Okay, so
much duller.
Yep. So you can see that it's not, doesn't have that luster. So this is a clear indicator to anybody keeping snakes. So if we look at the, see that eye? And this is the difference, but this is a very important thing, and certainly for people that are just getting into reptiles, this is key. Sometimes after the animal goes opaque and its eyes clear, it doesn't get exposed to proper humidity or a water source or a hide box with sphagnum moss where it's moist, where it needs to like kind of super hydrate its skin so it can it basically can shed out of its old skin. And a snake of this size could still or should be able to actually easily shed in one piece. So what we have right here, we have the old skin and then there's some new skin. So what we're going to do is we're going to take an animal like this, we're going to put like lukewarm water, which is tepid water. So if this animal's body temperature, let's say, is like 86 degrees, you want to give this animal initially some kind of water that is roughly at that same temperature. If it's too hot, as soon as you put the animal in there, you're gonna cause the animal to stress out. It's immediately going to react. If the water's literally too hot and you're dipping it in there, the animal's going to freak out, and then you're basically associating that animal with bad experience, and you're part of that bad experience. So do your thought process and think, if I have an animal and its body temperature is, let's say, a core temperature at 86 degrees, I would like to put it roughly in a similar temperature water. So it could be 90, and 90 might feel actually fine to this animal, but temperatures over 90, are not always necessarily the best. We understand that the temperatures of 100 degrees are critical and can kill some snakes within 5 minutes of being exposed to body temperatures of 100 degrees. When we take the animal and we put him in the bin, make sure it has air holes. And one thing you can do is, in this case, I actually use a Zoom Med thermostat. It's down there, and we put a heating pad on a shelf, and then we use the Zoom Med thermostat, and I actually put the thermostat probe in there, and we're shooting for roughly a temperature of 88 degrees. And we'll leave this animal in this water for days. A couple things to point out. If I put this animal in water that's too deep, you're going to cause the animal stress. Potentially the animal can drown. They can panic, they drown. If I put it too shallow, the animal it's benefiting from the hydration, but you're only bringing the bottom layer of skin, maybe like, you know, the literal base scales of the animal in the water, and everything else is still dry. So basically, you know, ventral scales and beyond. So in this case, I would consider water about halfway up the animal's body. But if I made it where the animal could not comfortably sit on the bottom, it was feeling stressed, it was panicking, stuff like that, you actually could create a bad situation. You want to keep it warm, you don't want to get it cold, and you don't want to get it too hot. So, you know, 82, 88 degrees is fine. And then I leave the snake like this sometimes for days. So what this animal's going to do, it's going to drink, it's going to superhydrate, it's also going to expose its dry skin to the water, and it's going to help it have a nice shed. So I might leave this animal for 2 or 3 days depending how bad it was desiccated, and then I will come in here and then I'll start peeling off the skin. A lot of times the skin will just like roll off. So this is a blood python, and at this point I can literally peel the skin off, and but we're just peeling this. So this guy's been soaking for several days now, and we just don't want to stress this guy out, but I'm just slowly managing the shed. I'm just using simple water, so there's nothing in here, there's no shed aid, but there is something called shed aid, and that actually can work really well too. But basically I'm just using a water container, water, I'm using one of my Zoom Med thermostats, and just a lot of know-how. Clean water is critical, okay? I'm all about clean water, whether it's water dishes or soaking vessels, because I don't think long term it's good for these animals to live in these things where the bacteria count goes up and stuff like that. So I do like things clean. So if it does defecate in the water, go there and clean it and go right back to soaking it. So the animal is recently fed. So if I take an animal and I dehydrate it, the animal can become constipated, and essentially what happens is the fecal material doesn't have enough moisture for the animal to actually rid itself of its GI tract, and sometimes it actually gets stuck in there. I can leave it in this soak, maintain the right temperatures, and the animal is going to sit there, and it's really going to benefit from you know, getting this clean water. Change it when you need it, and it will help the animal get enough fluid in its GI tract to actually basically rid the animal of its digested meal.
How do you know when it's constipated, Kevin?
Okay, so you basically, well, sometimes you can actually see the animal and you just actually notice there's a blockage. So if I look 2/3 down the animal or 3/4 of the way down the animal and I see, oh, there's like a noticeable swelling, and it's been like that for days, and it's not, generally what these animals do, they'll move all the material down to their vent, and a lot of times there will be urates, because snakes basically concentrate their urine into urea and uric acid, and so sometimes they'll actually have, it's like a physical blockage. And blood pythons, because they don't move a lot, they're maybe more prone to sometimes getting what appears to be blocked, or they just they might go weeks without ever have an animal, and for a long period of time it hasn't defecated, the animal actually becomes poisoned. So it's the material is now, it's basically the animal's trying to rid itself of it, and for some reason mechanically has a blockage, or it doesn't have enough fluid in its life, or the health of the animal is in poor shape, and that's going to degrade the quality of this animal's life. It's going to further any kind of ailments or problems. The animal will not thrive, the animal will not do well. And you know, some people like, you know, might think, oh, this is like redundant stuff, but actually to many people there's probably a bunch of different stuff that I've covered that actually makes you think a little bit. The one thing I haven't addressed is this animal's in a small bin. The small bin is not friendly to this animal crawling around, And if I give this animal a very large bin, that could also actually add stress because the animal really wants to hide. So what I could do is I can increase the size of this animal's bin. So maybe I've hydrated it for a couple days. I can now put some kind of fixture in there. I could put driftwood in there, any kind of epoxy type, fake branch, still in the water, and now allowing the animal to crawl around. What happens then is now the animal's moving, it's also hydrated, and it's more likely. It's comfortable, it's not panicking, it can sit in this water for days. I'm managing the water temperatures, it's comfortable, it can sit like this. It can sit like this for a week. These animals are well equipped to sit in water. We want to keep these animals as best as possible. Bad things happen. I have a lot of animals, more bad things happen to me than maybe somebody with 5 snakes. But I also know I have the know-how how to deal with this type of stuff. So I'm trying to pass this information on to other people because we love these animals. I'm just a glorified hobbyist.
Kevin, what are you doing out here?
This is Kevin from the swamp, and don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Continue talking and join our Discord. New England Reptile, I'm the Swamp Man.